Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chromosomatics podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Today we have another guest, the lovely Jasmine Clemente, best-selling
Hello.
author, singer-songwriter, and spiritualist. Hi, Jasmine.
Hola, I got carried away and I'm like, hello, everybody. Started. Excited to be here.
Yes, that's glad to finally get you on. We had to get our schedules lined up and everything. And I noticed you greeted with hola. That's another
Yeah.
thing. I don't know if you want to talk about your Puerto Rican heritage as well. Yo hablo un
Of
poquito
course.
español, uno dos palabras.
Of course.
So hopefully YouTube will translate that for us. Um, but yeah, I'm glad to have you on. Jasmine and I started to try to collaborate back during COVID. I had a online, like a TV network that was like a sister company to my online radio station. And I wanted to have a spiritual segment or a spiritual show where I had somebody that was a spiritualist, but was also connected to the dance music community. And Jasmine was that person. And that's when I first met Jasmine. And we tried to kick off a show. Never really happened. COVID was just crazy. And then, the whole DJs and video and all kind of died out and everything went back to normal. But once I launched Chromosomatics, I always wanted to reach back out to Jasmine because she never stopped the work she was doing in the spiritual lane. And she never stopped the music either. So, and she has a new book out, which you can see right there behind her. Yes, there we go.
More than one soulmates. I love it. I feel like it's so pretty. The designer did such a good job, so I'm like really happy with the product. But yeah, and we'll talk about the whole Latina thing because definitely this was written while I was in Tulum, Mexico, and I
Ah,
have
okay.
stuff coming out. But yes, my Latin heritage will definitely touch on that as well.
So, before we get started with what you're doing right now, I wanted to, hear about how you got into your spirituality. Is that something that's fairly new for you, or you just always knew there was more to life than just the 3D?
So, well, I love the way you said the 3D because it is. I was always deeply, deeply intuitive. And the reason why I got into house music in the first place when I started putting records out, it's actually because when I was a kid, I wanted to put out a message of what real universal love is, like agape love, spiritual love, which is not just a romantic love between a man and a woman or just family, but like love for the world, right? Like for just pouring out into the world. And I figured that as a musician, as a singer, I could get that message out because when you're famous, and I was saying this before, like Lady Gaga or Michael Jackson, and to that level of fame, when you give an opinion, people respect it because of who you are, because you're this big popular person. But when you're not famous, and let's say it's the next door neighbor giving an opinion, sometimes people be like, ah, yeah, whatever, right? So status matters. So since I was a little kid, I always felt like music would be the avenue that I would go towards to give this message. So I've always been intuitive. Then, as I got into music and I started putting records out, what I didn't realize was how dark the music industry could be. So I went through some of my own personal challenges as an artist, just so many different things. That's another can of worms that we can open up. But within going through those challenges as an independent artist, I wanted to step out of it for a while, and then I got really deep into spirituality. Like I started going to ashrams a lot. I became a yoga teacher, and I started to write. And so basically, I figured, okay, there's a lot of different avenues for you to get your message across. It can be through music, but it can be through anything. It can also be through writing. I started to feel that writing was safer for me to get my message across. And also, I had more control because when I'm writing whatever I want to write in a book or an article or whatever, I have a lot of control. As a singer, you're working with producers and DJs and managers and agents and all. It's a big production. You're working with a big team of people. And so, you could have a lot of control, but it depends, right? So you're really collaborating with people, and it depends because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities and egos. And, there's drugs in the industry. Some people do it, some people don't, but it's out there, and a lot of people do, unfortunately. So when you're around a lot of that darkness, I felt personally like I needed to take a step back out of the industry. I love the music. The music is medicine, but the industry could be pretty dark, like the world that we live in. The music, the world is beautiful, right? Planet Earth, Mother Gaia is beautiful. Water, the sky, the mountains, the beach, the plants, everything is beautiful, but people can be pretty dark and kind of mess things up. So, that's a long version, I guess. But so to make a long story short, I felt that I wanted to go into a different avenue, which was writing. It felt safer for me. It felt more like I was in more control. It was, I don't want to say isolating, but it's more solitude. It's solitary, because you're not dealing with other people. You're not performing. You're not out there for the world, but you're really going inward.
Mhm.
And so I really, really enjoy writing. So I'm still a musician. I'm still an artist, right? But I just love writing. So I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, I am very spiritual, very intuitive. Um, but yeah, depending on the environment that you're in, it can really influence you a lot.
Is that same message that you had when you were a little girl,
Mhm.
is that still woven into your books and in your music? Is it
Yeah,
in there
it is.
still? Yeah.
It is. And I love it because no matter how much darkness, I'm encountered with, and I think this is important for everyone, you know, when babies are born, they're born into the world and it's a blank slate. It's a clean slate. They're coming from the other side. They come here just with all this potential to make the world a better place, right? Because they don't
Mhm.
have biases. They're not racist. They're not obviously like, about money. They don't know what money is yet, right? So there's
Right.
no class or anything like that. They just come in with these pure spirits, right? And they're pure. They're so loving and they're so honest, right? Kids are like super honest. So they're confident, they're courageous. It's just these beautiful little beings. And I think it's important that as we grow as adults, regardless of what age, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, or 60s, 70s, whatever, you really want to reconnect with that inner child. And reconnecting with that inner child is not just about the trauma that we all experience as children, because a lot of us have, but it's also reconnecting with the inner child, the pure child before the trauma even happens. That vulnerable, sensitive, loving child, because that's the vulnerability and the sensitivity is that they love everything and everyone, which is why they're so easily upset. Like kids cry over everything, and they don't hold it in the way adults do. So it's like reconnecting to that innocent part of you, that untouched, that untainted part of you, remembering to go back there. I think it's so powerful to just, like to not cut that part of you off.
Oh, absolutely. Do you find that, your creativity, period, whether you're writing books or writing songs, do you find that therapeutic for you, just from a wellness standpoint, for your inner child?
Oh yeah. Because, some people, for example, they say to journal a lot or to,
Hmm.
even if you're not going to put it out there for the masses to read, but like your own personal. Journaling is very therapeutic. Some people won't do it because they're afraid that somebody might find their journal and read it. So there's, a little bit of fear around journaling. But the act of journaling itself is extremely therapeutic, right? As long as you know no one's going to read it, which is the whole purpose of the journal. It's to write and to express yourself,
Right.
whether it's positive or negative, but to like really express it and get it out there. So journaling, writing, period, is just really, really a powerful, powerful tool for us to express ourselves and get in tune with the real us.
Mhm. So, just fast forwarding a little bit, into the music industry. To bring that kind of innocence into
Mhm.
the industry is the music industry, just like you said. You have the music, but then you have the industry, and that's dealing with the
Right.
people and the systems put in place and the gatekeepers and all of this foolishness that goes on there. How
Right, right.
was your transition in terms of bringing your innocence into that world, but still being able to embed it in the songs and your writing? Was that
So
challenging?
my songs, what was the question?
I said, was
What
that
what?
challenging for you?
The only challenge was when sometimes this is funny. I laugh now because I'm like, I told you guys. So it was a while ago, right? When I put music out, I have a song called Wanting More that was on Nervous Records, and that was 2014. So that's over a decade ago, right? So all of my songs are actually spiritually written. Even Wanting More was. It was a little bit on the darker side, but I did that on purpose because we wanted like a hit record, right? And I was like, all right, let me write something dark, right? And it ended up Nervous Records picked it up, and it actually did really good, just like we know darkness always does, right? But it's a good record, right? So, but I had other songs like Free My Spirit, which was much more positive. So I was writing the stuff that I wanted to write, but sometimes producers would be like, all right, we don't want to write too much spiritual, positive stuff. Let's do a song about like sex, for example, or a song about money and stuff like that. And that's fine. Everybody has sex. We all live in a world where we got to make money and stuff. And there are those songs. But I didn't want to write those songs. I didn't want to, I mean, Janet Jackson has a lot of songs like that and it worked for her, but it didn't feel right for me. I'm like, I don't want to be that kind of artist though, right? Like I really wanted to do the goddess spiritual marketing. Yeah, marketing, but still like I believed in it. So the marketing wasn't fake for me. It was something I really believed in. I'm like, I want to be that kind of artist, right? The spiritual songstress. So not everybody was down with it. They thought I was a little cuckoo. And I'm laughing now because years later, that's everything you see. All the music that's out now is goddess and spiritual and witchery and all this stuff. And I laugh now because 10 years ago, I tried to tell these guys that. And they were like, that's a little too much, And some of these big, big DJs were like, nah, let's not do that. So what I think is really cool now, I see a lot of female singers and DJs, and producers more so than back then. And I like that. Not that it's a battle between men and women, because, that's a whole other conversation. But I do like to see that there are more women doing their own thing in the entertainment business and not relying so much on male producers and male DJs and stuff. Because when you do that, then it's like their world, and if they don't agree with something or if they're like, nah, I'm not really feeling that, then you don't get to do it. And then you basically give your power away to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that women now are like holding on to like they're keeping their power. And I love that. So that's awesome.
So what made you get into more of a leadership role in the spiritual arena? You're leading meditations now. You're doing yoga. You're a yoga instructor.
I
What made
know.
you go, okay, I'm just going to do this in my house to, I want to go out there and be in front of people and lead this.
I don't know. I just felt like I believed in it, and I think I went through enough darkness in my personal life with family, relationships in the music industry and all that stuff that I was like, I really want to go deep into the spirituality because if my foundation is not right within, it doesn't make sense for me to be out there performing, right? Like, because I really want to be authentic to myself. So I got yoga certified and I started teaching at yoga studios. And I just yesterday was guiding a meditation at one of the holistic centers, where I live. And I do them often. I'm guiding meditations, I'm doing retreats, I'm doing workshops, I'm doing all these things. And I love it. I really, really love it. Would I go back into I mean, yes, I do find myself still singing. I still have all the same connections and resources. I haven't lost any, contacts, even fans that still follow my music from back then still follow me now. So sometimes I do think about, putting a record out again, but I'm very like, when I do it, it's got to be like 100% what I believe in. I don't want to compromise anymore. Meaning like, oh, I don't want to do that record that doesn't, it's not going to sell. Well, then you're not the producer for me. We're not going to do the record then. I think when I was younger, I wanted to make it so bad that if I was around some really, really big popular producer slash DJ, then even if he wanted to do a record that I didn't really feel the lyrics, lyrically, I would do it anyway, just because it's like you want to get on the record with that person's name, right? So it's like you working your way up, right? So I would be like, okay, fine, I'll do that. But it sucks. Like no artist should have to do anything that they don't believe in. If you know, that's the whole point of being an artist. And a lot of artists, unfortunately, not just the house music industry, but pop music, hip hop, I don't care what genre it is. That's why the industry is the way it is now. The entertainment industry took a really big hit, right? The music is medicine, but the industry itself can be so dark that it can suck you in and it can change you, like a Lauryn Hill, for example,
Mm.
right? Because Lauryn Hill probably had the same type of intention that I did, right? Which is to enlighten people through the music. And I think the lighter that you are, meaning the more power to influence the world or to heal it and to to just heal people and empower people, the more that the opposition, the darkness kind of comes in and wants to destroy. And
Mm. That's true. You said something very important. Music is medicine,
mhm,
and it's all about your intention. Your intention travels in the music. The music is a carrier for your intention. So if
right,
your intention is innocent and it's all love, and that's not the what they want their music to carry, they're going to try to corrupt it.
right,
They're going to try to corrupt you because it's going to corrupt your intention, and
exactly.
that is the key when it comes to music. So yeah, that's something I'm aware of. But you can always go independent route too if you want to, especially
That's what I'm
nowadays. Oh my goodness, yeah, especially nowadays. And you can preserve your intention.
mm,
Unadulterated. So luckily, we have that option. Artists have that option nowadays.
mm,
So in terms of you stepping into the spotlight in spirituality, we already know you have no issue with stepping into the spotlight on the music side, right? But stepping into the spotlight on the spiritual side, a lot of people have issues with that. It's hard for them. They
mm,
feel like it's a lot of responsibility that they don't want. They don't feel like they have enough certificates. It's like they need this permission slip to do that.
right,
Um, and you don't strike me as that type. You look like you gave yourself your own permission slip to shine your
mhm,
light, whether it's yoga
right.
or leading meditations. Um, how was that for you? Was that just a natural transition for you?
Yes and no. So natural in the sense that my intentions are pure.
Mhm.
And no, in the sense of, like, for example, I have my yoga certification, right? That doesn't mean that I can teach all types of yoga because yoga is a huge umbrella. So I know my lane. So, for example, I'll teach yin yoga, which I really love, restorative yoga, gentle yoga. It's more of a meditative approach. I'm not teaching Ashtanga, and like the faster, more, I would say, extroverted or yang types of yoga. I teach more yin, which is more going within. It's a little slower pace,
Mhm.
right? So I know my lane. So there are some people that are yoga teachers, for example, they'll try to teach everything. And some of them are really, really good and some of them are not. And so with the example of yoga, I'm honest with what I can't teach. I won't try to teach something that I can't. I teach what I can teach because I want to be authentic to what I'm teaching. And I always tell people, regardless of what teacher you're working with, me or someone else, every teacher is a student also because we're all learning, right? So, a really key component, I think, to being a healthy teacher is being humble as well. I think those are some of the best teachers. So, but if you have a teacher who, like a performer or anything else, has an ego and they're acting like, well, do you know who I am? And you got to do it my way. Already you're losing half the battle. And a lot of people are losing some faith in people in the spiritual community because of things like that, because of the ego.
There's something I say at the end of every show, and I say, I say, don't dim your light for anyone and love yourself. So I understand that message is embedded in your book. You want to talk about how that unfolds in the book, I guess, without giving away too much of the actual content of the book.
No, no, not at all. More than one soulmate is obviously about different relationships, that we have more than one soulmate, and some of them can be toxic, and they're not always the romantic guy knight on a horse coming to save you. So when they're toxic like that, it's important that we remember to not only to continue loving ourselves, but not to become like them either. And what I mean by not becoming like them is if if someone doesn't have the bandwidth to remember to love that, like agape love, like that universal unconditional love, and they don't have it within them, and they can be like, let's say, selfish, or they just want it for themselves, or they're very egoic and dark and all that stuff, you don't forget who you are, right? That
Yes.
big bright light.
Yeah.
So you can break up with a person, you can let go of the situation without having to become so angry to the point where you're like, I hate that person, right?
Mhm.
It's okay to feel like that for a little bit if you're venting and you want to be real and you need to express it and get it out of your system, but you don't want to become that kind of person that has hate inside of you for anyone. And it can happen depending on what happens to you. You know, you can feel that. But that's I don't believe that's what we were born for. We weren't born to be in this world to learn how to hate, right? So even if something happened to us that made us so angry that in the moment we feel like we hate this person, that's not natural. We're not supposed to be that way. So that's when you come back to your innocence and you come back to your inner child and you come back to the angelic part of you. Where am I truly from? Who am I really? And you can still forgive the person from a distance, love them for them not knowing how they hurt you, or that they're even hurting themselves, I'm sure, right? So anyway, that can go into a deep conversation, but in the book there are four different relationships, and again, they're, not perfect, obviously, and it was important for me to remember that not to compromise who I am to love someone else and to make them comfortable, and so they won't leave me or abandon me, or to work out the relationship, or to be with someone because I'm at that age where I should just settle even if the relationship is completely misaligned,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I had to really find myself and go, okay, where did these voices come from in the world that make me feel like I have to be in this relationship, even if it's not working? Like, why? A lot of women go through that, right? Men do too, but mostly women, because we have this, thing that society tells us that by a certain age we should be married with, a family and this and that. And because society and our culture tells us that, there's a lot of times that we'll try to make something work that's not supposed to work just because we feel like we should. Because as a good woman, that's what you do,
Yeah.
right? So, and I think as a good person, woman or man, is to first get right with God, higher power. It doesn't have to be the name God. It could be whatever name you give it, because I'm not a religious person myself. But just get right with your purpose and why you came here in the first place, right? Get right with the higher entities, the higher energies, or the higher levels of love. And then, you can attract someone that's aligned with you, where the both of you have this beautiful purpose and mission, and it just works, organically and stuff. But more than one soulmate. Yes, you can have more than one. Absolutely. You can love more than one person at the same time. That can happen. Doesn't mean that you have to cheat, or be with two or three people at the same time. I mean, if you want to be polyamorous, that's another conversation too. But can you love multiple people at once? Yes, I do believe you can, because we are love. Who we are is love. We just are love. So some people can love many people. Anyway, I'm going deep into a lot of different conversations, but yes, the book is basically yeah, I think a lot of it's, especially for women, I would say. If females, if you're watching, pick up this book, definitely for females. Guys, they might read it, they might like it, who knows? But it's really more for chicks. It's for it's for the ladies for sure. It's for the ladies. Because the ladies will get it.
Mhm.
The ladies will get it. And it's okay to love men as much as you want, of course. Like, yes, but just not to the detriment of no longer loving yourself, or of shrinking yourself,
Yeah.
satisfy someone,
And guys,
especially if you're toxic.
you guys go through that too.
Oh
We
yeah,
go
yeah,
through it
yeah,
too.
absolutely.
I have a few that come see me that they go through that. And it reminds me of a saying that I heard and that I go by is, don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm.
Right.
Because yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, to bring it back to music and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I talk about that. I actually open up the book with a performance,
Mm,
of me singing and performing and stuff. And then the first chapter is about me going, should I give up on my dreams to be in a relationship?
mm.
That's how it starts, the first
Oh,
chapter.
wow.
As I was in my 30s and
Mm,
my family and my culture, welcomes to being Latina.
mhm, uh-huh.
Even though a lot of cultures are like this, but it was, when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna have kids? Like, you can't keep pursuing this forever. And,
Yeah.
and even you could be the most confident person on earth. And I'm telling you, the subconscious mind is extremely powerful. And you know this because the work that you do, so the subconscious mind, if you keep hearing those voices in your head, especially your culture and your family and the
Mm,
world telling you that, you're supposed to be in a relationship right now, it's going to play in your mind. Some people give into it, some people don't. But I did kind of start, I would feel like, should I? Like, is it time to give this dream up, put it on the side and be in a, serious relationship? So I talk about that in the book. And a lot of women go through that. And look at Jennifer Lopez, how many men she married. I mean, you
yeah.
know, I mean, but she, now she's finally at the point where I think she's like, let me take some time for me, right? And it's not that you can't be in a relationship, that's part of the natural, evolution of life. But, if you're desperate or if you just cling on to someone for all the wrong reasons, it can be detrimental to your own growth and to your purpose and what you're really here to do. So, a lot of people go through it. They just cling on to relationships when they should be free and wait for something healthy to come around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Jasmine, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on, and I know it's hard for us because you and I can get on the phone and talk for hours easily. So to try to, chop this down into like 35 minutes or so is actually kind of difficult. So much other things I want to ask you about actually, but I don't want you to give away too much of the book as well, you know. So so thank you for coming on. How can people get in touch with you for all of
Um,
your services?
so there's my website, there's
Okay.
jasmineclemente.com.
Uh-huh.
And then on every single social media platform, just look for Jasmine Clemente, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everything. I'm usually the first one that pops up, even though there's other people with my name, but usually I'm the first one. So Jasmine Clemente, Instagram is at Jasmine Clemente. There's no extra dots or
Mhm.
numbers or anything like that. You just
Okay.
put in your name, Google it, and everything should pop up.
Okay. And I'll put links up for that, so everyone can see it for the website and your social media handles as
So
well.
this.
So so what do you have coming up?
So
I know
now I'm
you're
writing
working
my
on some
third
things.
book. And actually,
Okay.
this was amazing too because I did a bookstore signing
Hmm.
that was really cool, an author bookstore signing. And I have another one coming up in Florida, actually. But now I'm working on my third book. And that one's called Soul Gratification. And it's a little bit lighter, it's more positive. This one can be kind of dark. There's some darkness in here. I think the ladies will like it though. So the other one is a little bit more lighter. It's about doing things that satisfy my soul. So it's soul gratification, a Latina light worker's journey. So I do talk more about my ethnicity in the third book, which I haven't done in my other books really. My other books, I talk about it a little bit because
Hmm.
obviously I'm Latina, so it's mentioned, but I don't really like go deep into it, right? This book happened to become a bestseller in the Mexico travel category on Amazon because I wrote it when I was in Tulum, Mexico. So when I published it, one of the categories that I put it in was Mexico because throughout the whole book, I'm going back and forth between being in my glamping tent in Mexico and then having memories of the relationships that I was in New York.
Oh,
So
okay.
I categorized it as in Mexico and it became a bestseller. So I was like, wow, that was amazing. So now my third book, I wrote some of it in Costa Rica.
Hmm.
And I'm still writing it. I haven't finished it yet. Um, and I'm going to Florida and also California, so I'll be writing more. I like to write when I go away. I write a little bit in New York too, but when I go away, I kind of just feel better when I write. And it's also going to have an audio version. So the third book will have an audio version. I already started recording the audio when I was in Costa Rica. Like I did the first chapter
Oh,
audio
okay.
out there already just to test it out and see how it would sound in the studio. And we put like these really great nature sounds and
Wow.
like birds calling out to the birds chirping and it really sounds great because I've never done an audio version before. And I was like, wow, I can't wait to do the rest, like the remaining chapters, because it sounds like a play almost, which
Okay.
I wasn't expecting. Like when you write a book, you're writing, there's no sounds or anything. And then you do the audio and you think, okay, well, I'm just reading the book. Like living in this type of climate, I question, what is love? This is something I just wrote in there, so I'm
Right,
reading it.
right.
All I knew was that as the world demonized, blah, 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 blah. Right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm reading my book in audio, but then we're putting sounds
Yeah,
around
yeah.
the, what I'm saying. So there might
Mhm.
be like police sirens and birds chirping or the wind blowing, shamanic things. We put wind chimes and, so we were doing all these different sounds as I'm
Mhm.
reading, depending on the scene. So it sounded great. And now I'm excited about the rest.
Wow. I wouldn't be surprised in the next couple of years that people would have little AI movies that go along with their books.
I know AI,
It'd be
it's
easy
really
to
good
do,
and bad.
actually.
Not to go too far off topic, but actually one of the producers I worked with, music producers, he
Mhm.
reached out to me the other day and said he wanted to use my face for AI.
Uh-huh.
And I said, we'll talk.
Yeah. There's some illegal stuff.
Like he goes, I want to use your face for AI for one of my AI artists or
Oh
some.
God.
I said, oh, we'll talk. Let's talk about it first.
Yeah, I don't even know if the lawyers have figured that out yet. Just
Oh,
using your likeness and your intellectual property of your own image and likeness, and that's some hairy stuff. So it was a pleasure to have you on, Jasmine. Hopefully we'll see you again. Like I always say, everyone, you are unstoppable. No one can stop you but you. Don't dim your light for anyone and love yourself. Until the next episode.